Welcome into episode 60 of the Two Pad Stack podcast. I'm your host Ace in the wonderful seat here again, talking a little bit of Bruins hockey, and we're gonna go around the league today too. So alongside me today, have a new face, somebody that you may have heard around the Bruins world a time or two. I have Andrew from Short Shift Podcast joining me as the second chair today. Andrew, how's it going, buddy?
It's going well. It's going good. Glad that you approached me to do today, and looking forward to talking some nonsense.
Oh
And
yeah.
looking forward to spreading the gospel of believing in Joe Sacco.
Yes. Yeah. I believe in Joe Sacco. I do. And then with a record of 4-2 as the Bruins head coach, interim or not, how can you not, right? So there'll be probably plenty of memes and laughs that are coming over
Yeah.
from the short shift Discord, and really looking forward to having this chat today. Um but yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in then. So let's, as we usually do here on the two pad stack, we're gonna take a look at the week that was for the Boston Bruins first and foremost. And that was a little bit of an interesting one. You had a lot of highs, had some lows. But it's all gonna get started when basically the former Bruins train stops its
Mhm.
caravan right at TD Garden. I mean, we had we talked about it briefly on the last episode. Jake DeBrusk ends up going and becoming a Vancouver Canuck. Danton Heinen goes over there. Derek Forbert, granted, Forbert wasn't in this game because he's fighting an injury right now. But I mean, they got the beautiful, video montage on TD Garden ice, and Jake gets his roses from the fans. He gets his Oreos from the fans, all that kind of stuff. And it's only poetic that he gets a damn goal in his return
Mhm.
to TD Garden too. What was your take overall on the former Bruin return to Boston, Andrew?
I you saw it from space, didn't you? The
Oh yeah,
goal, him scoring,
oh
like
yeah.
you saw it from the moon that he was going to score. Rather controversial way of doing it. It's actually really interesting that a goal that goes off of his hand on an unintentional hand pass actually counts now that he's off the Bruins. Isn't that weird?
Oh
That's
yeah,
so
yeah,
weird.
yeah. Well, he's not wearing the black and gold anymore, so it's fine.
Yeah, so it's fine. But yeah, he made a comment about how the Bruins seemed to play better when his team was there, which I thought was a real which I thought was a really interesting dig by Jake. Um and no, he just seemed to really revel in, scoring that goal, and that shouldn't have counted.
It
But
should
that
not have
really
counted.
seemed to really propel him. Yeah, it shouldn't have counted. If it you can't call like that. You know what I mean? It just seems very we don't know where the NHL still continues to show its ass when it comes to rule enforcement. They're getting clear about goaltender interference. They still don't know. What's a hand pass? What's an illegal check? It's just I wish it had been a snipe so we wouldn't have to like talk about it in this way. It's nice
I
that he
know.
scored. I will always root for Jake DeBrusk. I always like the player. I know you were a little cooler on him than some, but
See,
hey, he would
I
lead the
always
Bruins
liked
in goals
Jake's
right now.
game. I likes his game. My thing with him is that he wanted to move on to other things. He wanted to be closer to home in Canada, and he didn't
Mhm,
want to be a Bruin anymore. And I'm a very passionate Bruins
mhm,
fan. I try to be objective as much as possible, but I mean, much like what made Jack Edwards such a great play-by-play guy from the Bruins, it's because he was a fan first and foremost, and he wanted the players that he's
mhm,
calling games of to want to be Bruins. And a lot of the times I feel like Jake DeBrusk treated it like it was just a job, right? It wasn't, something to
mhm,
be tremendously passionate about. And he was there to score a few goals, collect his paycheck, and go back home to Edmonton in the offseason. And, the best Bruins are the ones that really allow Boston to become part of who they are. It seeps into their DNA. A guy that comes into
mhm,
mind, even though he's not even a Bruin anymore, is Torrey Krug. That guy absolutely let
mhm.
becoming a Bruin and the city of Boston become part of who he was. I mean, hell, he named his dog Fenway for God's sakes, right? So, I didn't like the brusque at
Right.
the end because he was a kid that wanted to just do what he wanted. That's his prerogative, right? He put in the work, he became an NHL player, and that's what he's allowed to do. That's why the CBA negotiated, unrestricted free agency. And he earned it. But because of that, because of the multiple trade requests, because of him, his dad basically came out and said, "Yeah, absolutely. It was ready for a change of scenery. He needed a change of scenery. And he didn't want to be a Bruin." So happy for him. Glad he was
Mhm.
able to get those goals. But if I have to hear about the 2015 draft one more fucking time, I'm gonna have a fucking stroke.
I mean, it's now you don't have to. Like, I mean, you shouldn't have to because Jake DeBrusk is in Vancouver. Jakub Zaboral signed a 5-year contract in the Czech Republic, and Zach Senyshyn is killing it in the German league. So, I mean, more power to you, to all of you. Um, I
Yeah, I
mean,
really
I,
thought that
I
Senyshyn's skating, though. I thought that was going to be a difference maker at the NHL level because I always thought he had the wheels to play at the big leagues, but he just
he did,
couldn't put it together.
he did. He did have the wheels to play in the big leagues. He had a strange, I don't want to say strange, actually, that's the wrong word, but he had a unexplainable chemistry with Sean Curali,
Mm,
which was really getting explored before he got hurt again. That was
yeah,
that was the thing about Zach Senyshyn. I think that leads to a lot of revisionist history. He had wheels. The dude could fly. Probably dude could still fly. He's an excellent, excellent skater. I I think I think Senyshyn is a cautionary tale with a lot of Bruins prospects, even now, almost 10 years later, Jesus Christ, where they try to sand the edges off instead of letting the
mm,
kids play their game
yeah,
and let them make mistakes, but play to their strengths. Senyshyn was an offensive guy, scored 40 goals in the Sioux. Um, That's not by mistake. You get to the areas. He was a big body too. He was 6'2", over 200
yeah,
pounds.
yeah,
So I mean, he wasn't just some small guy. He was a 6'2" wing that could skate. But
yeah.
he was a reach. A lot of people knew that he was a reach. If you believe the scuttlebutt around the draft floor, the only reason that they took him 15th was not because of Noah Hannafin. It was because they caught wind that the Ducks were going to select him at number 30, and they didn't want to lose the pick, so they jumped up and grabbed him. Which panic move, but
Yeah.
but
I mean, it's no.
and
I
Zavora
mean,
was
not that
rated
I.
ahead of Shabbat.
Yeah, not that I want to rehash this whole goddamn 2015 draft again, but it's like there's so many misses. It doesn't help when Don Sweeney
Sorry.
wasn't prepared and he was just kind of thrown into the job. But
Mhm.
anyways, back to the Vancouver game. And you mentioned
Yeah.
Jake DeBrusk talking about how the Boston Bruins actually played a better game. And I actually do think that the Bruins played a much better game than what the Vancouver Canucks did that game. I mean, I thought that
Mhm.
Joe Sacco has the Boston Bruins playing to the kind of game, the DNA that they have to play if they're going to be successful. And I'll also admit that these games that
Agreed.
we're going to break down right now, they're going to be a little bit more on the softer side. This is definitely, a lower end schedule for the Boston Bruins. And that's why it was a really good time for them to make the choice of making a coaching change because it allows Joe Sacco and his new staff a little bit of runway to kind of get things established and get them going. But it was a nice
Sure.
change of pace for the Bruins to only lose 2-0 in a game where they probably should have won, as opposed to just getting their doors blown off in like the second period.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was something I think that they can take as a good takeaway out of that game.
They could definitely take that. They're definitely you think you kind of hinted at this. So I'll say it outright. They're playing with more pride right now. This team is not that good. They're not that skilled. They have to play a certain way to win. They're not that fast. You have a lot of struggles in the bottom six. At the top, actually, bottom six is playing better than the top six right now. You have a lot of
Mm,
struggles in the top six right now. It looks like some of them are starting to get their footing just a little bit. We'll talk about one of them in a minute. But they have to play a certain way, and they have to play Islanders hockey. They have to play fucking pre-2004,
New Jersey
John
Devils.
Tortorella, clutch grab, block Jersey Devils, block every shot, and, I mean, it makes sense watching these first 6 games, that the Bruins have, I generally don't like to go, wins in games in hockey. I generally like to go points. So instead of saying they've won 4 of 6, they've gotten 8 out of 12 points because of the scoring
Yeah,
system.
sure,
I like to do it that way. I think
sure.
it's a little more of a storyteller. That's a 109 point pace over an 82 game season. So I believe in Joe Sacco. I believe that he is more he's a better fit for this roster. He's a better fit for this roster. I mean,
Yeah.
say what you will about Bruce Cassidy. He had a certain roster that he could coach. And Sacco, by all counts, is a disciple and X's and O's wise of Bruce Cassidy. So I like Cassidy as an X's and O's coach. The other stuff you can take or leave. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to do anything of that sort. But I think that there's a conspiracy theory rolling around the Shorty Discord. I don't know how widespread it is that this team was made with Joe Sacco in mind and not Jim Montgomery, and
Mm.
maybe that's part of the fallout that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, on that note there, I'm not gonna, like, directly quote it 'cause I'm just gonna paraphrase it. I mean, I'm not a
Sure.
giant Barstool Sports fan myself, but Grinelli was talking about the fact
Mhm.
that they straight up told Sacco before the season that if they're not able to get Montgomery signed or something happens, guess what? The job's yours. So don't go take another NHL head coaching job because that could probably happen. And it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I mean, just
Mhm.
from the sheer fact that Sacco's been here, you mentioned that he was a disciple of Cassidy. Wasn't just serving under Cassidy. He goes as far back as under Julian.
He
Like
was a
he has
disciple under
been,
Julian too.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been around for a decade. So I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, as a former NHL head coach, and he took his lumps and got let go from Colorado and worked his way back up the
Mhm.
system here. He could have probably gotten another opportunity the way the NHL likes to recycle head
Sure.
coaches. So
Sure.
there had to be kind of an under the table agreement, I think, with the front office here in Boston.
Yeah. Like we're not certain where this is gonna go. We're a little leery about how the regular season ended. The
Yeah.
playoffs the playoffs were the playoffs. They made it farther than they did for the record-setting season, so maybe that gave him a little bit of cushion to start, but that cushion faded real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All
Mhm.
right, well, let's keep going.
Hmm.
Uh, so Vancouver Bruins lose 2-0, but they look really good. It was a good game. I think that Vancouver's goaltender, I forget exactly who they had in the pipes that game. Um,
Lankinen, they got Lankinen, and
yeah,
who looked unreal.
looked stellar. Just really,
Yeah.
really high
Mhm.
end. And all the jokes were, oh yeah, we're getting goalied by a backup goalie again. But Lankinen's actually had a pretty good little start to his career here so far. So
Mhm. Mhm.
kudos to him. So the beat keeps rolling. Second half of a back to back. So Bruins come off a frustrating loss, but some things that they can take some victories out of, and they're going to go on the road to play against that team that you just were referring to as the team to kind of play like right now to be
Yeah.
successful. And
Mhm.
they're on the road. They're going to be heading down to Long Island to play against the Islanders. And I thought that was a pretty interesting game all around. Um, Pretty tight through the first two periods, and then the
Mhm.
Boston Bruins just broke it open in the third period with a couple of tallies from Pavel Zacha.
Absolutely. Zaka was unhinged in that 3rd period, and that's the kind of game I wanna see from him more. He was attacking, he was fast, he was, dare I say, reckless. I think he
Mm,
plays the best when he plays a little bit like whirling dervish, when he's
yeah,
not thinking. I think that's part of his problem. I really like Pavel Zacha. I especially like him in the middle. People disagree with me, they can feel free to do so. But, I like Pavel Zacha in the middle when he's playing like this, when he's playing this aggressive, don't think, just react style, because his natural hockey instincts are why he was a top 6 pick in
yeah,
the NHL draft.
right.
And Another guy I kind of want to give a shout out to in some from that game, and somebody who
Mhm.
I've been very critical of on the short shift pod is Nikita Zadorov. I think
Mm.
he's really benefited from the coaching change. He's still taking stupid penalties, but in terms of the run of play, he's been much better.
Yeah, I think if that may be the game, and I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. That was the one that the Bruins were shorthanded a decent bit, and the third, and Zadorov just kind of sealed the deal for them and just played
That
solid defense.
was Detroit last
Oh, okay,
week. Yeah,
my life's a blur.
that was Detroit. There was Bruins were only called. Bruins were only called for one penalty the entire game. Actually, the entire game was one penalty,
Hmm.
and it was Nikita Zadorov, and he scored on an empty net coming right off the
Oh yeah,
penalty
his
box.
first as a Bruin, baby. What
Yep,
a way to get your
empty net
first. That was
breakaway.
hilarious. Yeah.
Right.
It would have been really extra
Yeah.
funny though if he missed that. How hilarious would that have been?
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been great. I would have loved that. But, but no, I think he's been much better. I think Carlo's been much better, and it speaks to Sacco's style. Pavel Zacco. It speaks to Zacco's style of these more defensively minded players are getting to kind of
Mm,
shine a little bit. And I wish the Dorf would stop taking fucking penalties. By the way, we'll touch on another penalty that he took on when we get to the Pittsburgh game.
mhm.
But if he would just clean that up, he would just be a stout top four guy. He's so unbelievably physically gifted. He's
Yeah,
ridiculously
the
physically gifted.
tools, unbelievable.
It's so infuriating that he's been on 6 teams before the age of 30.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then people call him like a coach killer and shit like that already too, and it is what
Mhm.
it is. But
Right.
yeah, I mean it was just it was nice. I want to talk about your point about Pavel Zacha too.
Mhm.
I think that he's got some of the most raw scoring talent on the
Mhm.
forward core right now, and anybody not named David Pastrnak.
Mhm.
The way that he can get off his one-timers, now they're not usually not very accurate. I'll be the first one to say that. If
The
he could just
king
hit
of
the net
ping,
more.
baby.
Yeah, he's looking like Daniel Paille out there with how many high glass shots he gets.
Oh
But
god.
but yeah, I mean, I think that he's got some of the most like lethal release in the forward core. And I do think that if you could just reel those in and get more quality shots instead of quantity, that'll
Mhm.
really go a long way for him. I've about had it, and I think this happened a few times in this game. I
Mhm.
love Morgan Geeky. He's a friend of the show. We've had him on before. Shout out to you geeks. But David Pastrnak, please stop fucking forcing passes down the middle to try to get Geeky one-timers back door. Like, just take the shot for the love of God.
I
Please.
don't want Jesus Christ. I don't want Morgan Geeky taking one-timers. There's one shot that I want Morgan Geeky taking. I want him carrying the puck in the slot and then just hammering a clapper. The
Hmm.
dude's got one of the hardest shots hardest shots on the team,
Yeah.
maybe in the game. Like he cracks 100 with
Yeah.
his clapper. He's got a hell of a shot. I wish he'd use it more. And I wish he'd have the wherewithal to place it
Mm,
correctly. He's worse than Zaka in that regard.
yeah.
But yeah, dude, you're David fucking Pasternak. You're making $88 million, 11 million a year. Don't look yourself off. Shoot the puck. You don't have to be a distributor. You don't have to get everybody involved. You are the alpha. Act like it.
Yeah. Yep. All right, we're gonna keep going.
Mhm.
The 29th, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who are struggling mightily, come into Boston. Their defense is just hemorrhaging offensive
Fuck this game.
opportunities
I'm sorry.
to their opposition. It's a great opportunity for the Bruins to roll with a high after that big third period against the Islanders. And what do? They just crap themselves in this game. And can I just say, what the fuck is a 6:30 p.m. start time? What are we doing here, NHL? Obnoxious.
I don't understand. I didn't understand that. I did not understand that. If you're doing the Black Friday game, you have to. If you're doing the Black Friday game, you either start it like a normal night game, you start it like a
Yeah.
normal 7 o'clock,
Yep.
or you start it at 1 or
Yeah,
12. Get weird with it.
why?
Start it at 12.
The Bruins matinee game
No,
has been synonymous on Black Friday for almost ever, right? And it was a doubleheader at TD
Yeah.
Garden every Black Friday. Bruins in the afternoon, Celtics in the evening. Like, why is this not a thing anymore? Like, and just moving it up
Mhm.
30 minutes, it's not a matinee. It's just inconveniencing people
Yeah.
because now they got to
It's a
get
night
to
game. It's an
TD
evening
Garden
game.
30 minutes earlier. Like, you're a pain in the ass. People have
Yeah.
to get out of work.
Do you know if the Celtics were playing that night? Do you know if the Celtics were playing that afternoon? Because I don't. I
I have
don't follow
I have no
NBA.
idea. I have no idea. I'm not an
Okay,
NBA guy
well,
myself either.
I was gonna say
But
maybe they switched it up or something, but
yeah,
yeah, I don't
yeah.
understand that. Um, however, that doesn't excuse how they played.
No, it does not. I candidly, I was not able to watch this game. I was at my daughter's hockey tournament and I was sitting
Mhm.
in
Good
the
dad. 100%
hotel
dad.
pool. Yep, yep. Dad mode engaged.
Oh, wait.
So I was not able to watch this one. So I was informed by many people, especially in your Discord for the Shorty Pod, that it was a good
Mm.
game to not pay attention to.
It was a good game to not pay attention to. Coyle scores 2 minutes in, and you're thinking, "Oh, yeah.
Here we
Oh,
go.
yeah. There it is." Nothing the rest of the game. And 32 shots. They had 32 shots on goal.
Hmm.
I could count maybe 4 that were in any danger of going in. I mean, like, not even just high danger, just like had any shot of going in. It was just everything was at Jari's chest. Nothing was
Hmm.
elevated. Tristan Jari looked like 2021 vintage Jari. And he is not that right now. His 5-on-5 save percentage entering Friday was 832. 832.
It's not good.
Not great. Not great, Bob. So,
Nope.
I mean, you got to stop what's in front of you, and Jerry stopped what's in front of you. But man, I wish the Bruins made it harder on him.
Yeah, I did hear, and once again, prefacing this with the fact that I wasn't able to watch this game, unfortunately. But I did hear at the end there were a few close calls with like
Mhm. I'll fill
Carlson
in the blanks for you.
blocking. Yeah, Carlson blocking good opportunity and Latang also blocking good opportunity. So they had their looks at the end of the game to maybe draw it even.
Latang made a ridiculous play on I think it was Geeky. Geeky had a yawning cage and a dunk, and Latang came from God knows where and slid in with his legs together, like he didn't splay out. He slid in with his knees down, skidded across the ice, and blocked the shot. I don't know how. I don't
Hmm.
know how. I don't know how he got there. He was nowhere to be seen when Geeky got the puck, but that was one of those things where you just sort of look at the game and you're like, Merkulov.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, best we can do is Mark
Please,
McLaughlin.
please.
Yeah,
Oh,
best we can
well,
do is McMuffin.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Which
didn't he hit a post? Was it
he's
this game
so
that he hit a
inoffensive to
post
me.
in? Yeah.
He had a post too. Yeah, he had a post too. He actually hasn't been bad since he's been called up. He's been very there. He hasn't been dragging him down, which is positive.
I mean, a lot of the times that's what you want in an AHL call up, right? You don't want to necessarily notice him because if you're noticing him, it's probably for a negative thing unless he's scoring. So if you're just going through the motions
Yeah.
and not, jumping out, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
I'd kind of rather have him than Tyler Johnson right now, to be perfectly honest.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I know
Yeah.
Tyler Johnson
Mhm.
like stole your girlfriend or something at one point, but
Not with that voice, he didn't.
he's got a little pudgy face too. Like I see that guy on
He does.
camera and I'm like,
It's so
wow, that's an
weird.
NHL athlete. Like what is this going on here?
You just kind of want to look at him and go, "Zhu, zhu, 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 it's okay, blah, blah, blah." It's a little put him there, little pudgy cheeks, little pinch
Give
him,
him a little
little pinch him.
Werther's original when he shows up for Thanksgiving.
Get some candy from my bag.
All right. So yeah, Penguins game sucked. They don't get the win streak or anything going on there. So back to square one. And the game that everybody's been keeping their eyes out for a long, long time with a lot of fan festivities, a lot of fanfare. They had the whole, like, event outside TD Garden the entire day. The day before, they had the big statue unveiling of the new Boston Bruins bear statue outside of TD Garden. Um,
I
so
think
the
that's neat. I think I liked it. I
I
liked
love
it.
that statue.
What did
I
you
love
think?
that. I walked by it and
Yeah.
I did what you're supposed to do. I don't know if you guys know this, but with the new bear statue, when you're walking into the garden, you're supposed to rub the paw for good luck. So this is now going to be where the next communal disease will start is right here outside TD Garden from everybody rubbing the bear paw. But we did it. We rubbed the bear's paw. We walked into TD Garden. We saw a wonderful pregame ceremony where we had representatives of all the eras that were celebrated last year. Bobby Orr was back in town. He was hanging out with
Mhm,
Esposito. We had Rick Middleton there. Cam Neely got to go on the ice and get his
mhm.
roses. I booed. For the
Yeah.
record, I booed when he got on the ice, but Cam Neely, the player, and Cam Neely, the GM, are very different people. Or Cam Neely, the
I was
president.
expecting more boost. Uh, right. I mean, that was good of them to, well, not maybe not good of you, but good of most of the crowd to sort of delineate the difference between the two.
Yeah.
I was very surprised at the lack of booing. That of course, actually, you were there, so you have more of a view on this than I do.
Hmm.
Nesson, I think Nesson doctors the crowd a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Did you and there was some warm cheering when, Neely came out, but what did you hear at the arena?
Yeah, I would say overall the reception was relatively warm. You could definitely hear, in 308, which is where my seats are, you could hear booing
Hell
here
yeah.
on the left, booing on the right, and just scattered
Mhm.
individuals letting their educated opinions be
Right.
known that they don't really necessarily support some of the things that have been going on lately.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. Well, I mean, I guess I can let Nesson off the hook for that. I was just
Yeah.
surprised that the booing wasn't more pronounced considering everything.
Yeah, I would definitely wouldn't call it pronounced, like, but there was some people that knew what the hell they were doing and yelling. But um I'm curious of your thoughts on the uniforms. I thought that they're interesting. I think that they should have just leaned in more to the gold. Like the Sox do this half black, half gold thing. Like stick with the gold socks. Like Bruins need to be gold socks. Like that's how it's always been. That's how it always should be. It's almost how the Bruins seats need to be gold and black as well. Like that's one of the things that bug me. And then the big, transition from black to yellow on the jersey. I felt like I was watching Pittsburgh Penguins jerseys out there.
I was just about to say that. Okay, so I'm looking forward to like if you have been hearing some drips of news throughout the season
Yeah.
that um that the gold spoked bee may be the a permanent brand change next year.
Yes.
I am hype as fuck for it. I am
Absolutely.
so ready
Right there
for
with
it.
you.
We have had we have had 2 opportunities to get it right now because of the Centennial jerseys that we wore all year and these jerseys. Let's hope third time's the charm. I grew to think that the black and white jerseys last year were okay. I actually kind of liked the white jerseys in a way. I wish that they had as you said, leaned into the gold a little bit. The black jerseys never really caught on with me.
Mm,
This and I didn't really think of this. Your Pittsburgh point is a really good one. The sleeves sucked. Thomas has been very vocal about that. The sleeves were terrible, going all the way down the arm. Definitely gave a Pittsburgh vibe. I didn't really get the Pittsburgh vibe until I saw them live and I saw the
right
nameplate.
there with
And
you.
I was like,
Yep.
oh, yep. I saw the
Yep.
nameplate on the ice. Like it's different. You know when a jersey comes out and it's sometimes it's way different on the ice than it is just
100%.
on its own. I saw
Yeah.
the yeah, saw the nameplate and I was like, "Oh, that's Pittsburgh. Oh
Mhm.
god." You know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
not a
And
fan. I wasn't a fan of them.
I've heard rumors that it's not just a B that's staying. I've heard that this core jersey concept is going to be the foundation of the overall uniform kit for next year, and that an
Tinker it a little
away
bit and you
version.
got something.
Please, like, just
Yeah.
go all black. Get rid of that yellow bottom and just do piping like you usually do a Bruins jersey, and
Mhm,
then
mhm.
throw meth bear on the shoulder yokes. Like, just honestly, it doesn't take rocket surgery here. We don't need to go futuristic. Go back to what we had for
But
the
does it take
80s.
brain science?
It's fucking ridiculous. I just, that guy Hitman Law, I think is his name. He's a graphic
Hitman
designer.
Law, oh, man. He's wonderful.
Yeah, his
He rules. I
jerseys
think
that he
his real
put
name's
out.
Luke.
Yeah, like Luke Wolshinis or something like that. Well, yeah,
Yep.
his
Mhm,
jerseys he
mhm.
designed are like what I would buy 70 of. The ways, the homes, they're super crisp. They are amazing, and
Yeah.
it's just exactly what they should have done for the Centennial. My gripe about the Centennial jerseys is that I hated that shimmery gold. I hated that.
Mhm,
Like, if you could have just
mhm.
done the normal Bruins gold with those kits, they would have been fantastic. I would have loved
That's
them
what
all.
that's why I could never get fully sold on them. Like, during the season, as the season went on, I started to like the white. I actually did start to like the white, but it took me a while. It took me a while, but maybe
Yeah.
that was just Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, right?
But you've had yeah, I guess technically you've had 3 opportunities to get this right, and you still haven't, and just there's a little more you need to do. So, call up Luke, get on that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we'll have to get that squared away. Anyways, the one thing that I was talking about jerseys a little bit there because they have this crate thing at center ice and the in-game presentation, they're like, "Oh, the Centennial vault will be opened or whatever, da da da, and
Mhm.
we'll close the first 100 years and hand over to the next generation for the next 100." I thought they had something in the box. I thought that there was something in that
Yeah,
box at
it
center ice that, like, I was like, "Oh, shit," and I'm looking I'm there at the game with my brother, I'm like, "They're about to, like, reveal the new jerseys." Like, they're gonna reveal, like, a new logo or something, and it's gonna come out, and then it's gonna be hung out underneath the Jumbotron temporarily. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be sick
Mhm.
that we were here for this," and then it's just like it just sat there, and then they came out the bowl game came out and disassembled the box, and there was nothing in it. I'm like, "Well, what the hell was the point of that thing?" Like,
Why
what are we
would you
doing here?
why would you assemble why would you assemble a metaphorical box?
And you
It's
called it a vault.
metaphorical.
Vaults contain things.
Well, vaults contain things, there's stuff in them.
Right, it's like one of those
Yeah, I
YouTube
mean,
videos where, like, the
I
guy's
like the
busting open a safe, and then you watch for the first 15 minutes, and you get to the end, and there's nothing in the fucking safe, and you're like, "Well, what the fuck did I just spend all that
yeah.
time for?" Like, come on.
That was what's his name? That was, Geraldo Rivera breaking into Al Capone's vault and finding nothing.
Yep. Yep, that's how I felt, but it was still a beautiful, beautiful ceremony, great to see the legends of the game here. That drone shot that they released on Twitter, that was sick.
I didn't get to see it, but I did see, I was a little, like, I wanted to see more players, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
getting Tim Thomas was there, but didn't participate in the
Yeah.
ceremony. Chara was away. Always nice to
Yeah,
see Virgie though.
yeah, I think Chara was running, like,
He looks
the
great.
Timbuktu marathon or something.
What an absolute freak of nature that man is.
Just a menace.
Holy fucking shit. He could probably still play if he really, really wanted to. Probably not. He'd probably be
Still
really
better than
slow
Forbert.
still. Yeah. Well, gotta start somewhere, I suppose.
Um,
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I liked seeing Willie O'Ree is a stylish motherfucker. Holy shit.
oh, yeah, drip for days. I could learn a thing or two from that guy's style.
I love that guy. I love that guy's style. Hell yeah.
Yeah. I was happy that he finally got his, due with getting his number retired and Tutu up in the rafters. I mean,
And
it is what it
yeah, it was long,
Um,
long overdue. I'm glad it happened. But what about the
same.
game?
Yeah, let's talk about the game. That game was quite the treat, right, to open up, kinda like when Coyle scored 2 minutes in the Pittsburgh game. Instead, this time, they actually scored a bunch more, like, immediately after. It was like 3-0 Boston, right off the hop, like 10 minutes into the
Mhm.
game, and it was a wonderful time. The crowd was
Love that.
electric. A lot of people were having a good time. I had a bunch of people just that I didn't even know trying to high five me and shit. It was a lot of fun. It's good to see Charlie McAvoy get it going. Like, who called a Charlie McAvoy wraparound goal? Like, that wasn't on anybody's bingo card.
Who who called a Charlie McAvoy breakaway dunk?
Shorthanded.
Shorthanded of all things.
Yeah. Just
Yeah, none of
unbelievable.
us.
No, Charlie Coyle
Yeah,
collecting
no,
2
Mac.
goals this game.
Yep. Mhm. Coyle's heating up. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Coyle lately. I just want him to continue it. He's more in line where he needs to be on the third
Mm,
line, taking those third line matchups,
mhm.
and it's really benefiting him right now. I'm glad that Sacco had the sense to bump him down. I think Monty like started doing that before he got canned. I don't know. I don't know if he was no, I think he did because they switched Zaka to the center, and that was their reasoning of bumping Patra to the AHL.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I
So,
mean, we'll keep breaking down this game in a second, but Patra, I'm hearing, haven't been able to watch a lot of Providence games, but I'm hearing him and
mhm.
Lysell, when Lysel's been in the lineup, they're still generating a lot of opportunities down there. They just can't get somebody to bury him.
Patra has looked Patra and Lysal all year have looked fantastic down there. And I don't know what it is exactly they want them both to continue to work on up down there, but whatever it is, they're working on it and they're doing really well with it. So,
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't
um,
surprise me to see both of them back up here at the NHL level sooner rather than later, especially if the injury bug continues to bite. The other, speaking of injury bug, news came out once again
mm,
about Hampus Lindholm, still weeks away, according to Joe Sacco, which, according to my initial prognosis, which
mhm,
was like 4 months or so, is what I thought based upon a fractured kneecap recovery timeline would be.
mhm,
We're still
mhm,
going to be
mhm.
a ways without Hampus Lindholm, which sucks because he's been the Bruins' best defenseman this year, as far as I'm concerned.
He's been great. He's been great. And I think a lot of people lost sight of how last year he took some of the hardest defensive deploy in the entire
Yeah.
NHL and did well with it.
Yep.
And people were saying how bad he was and how he needed to be traded. And he was I would say actually back up. He wasn't outstanding, but considering his matchups and considering how he more than held his own and even did well in a role that he actively during the postmortems last year, he actively said, "Nah, I hated this. I hated how I was deployed. I hated how I was part of the shutdown there. I don't want to ever do that again. I want to be in a more offensive role." But he did so well in that role with Carlo. And people just looked at the points and just forgot that Hampus Lindholm for $6.5 million is a top tier second of this is going to sound weird, a top tier second pairing defenseman who can play in your top pair.
Yep.
He's great. I
Yep.
I have no complaints about Hampus Lindholm's time here so far.
No, I mean, and I'm a card carrying Hammer fan. I got a Lindholm jersey and everything. So
Hell
I
yeah.
love his I love his game. Really hoping he can continue to put the work in and get back soon. Because the Bruins defense is better when he's in the lineup. And when you don't have to
Mhm,
decide, to put, Lori out on the second pair, if you can slot him back down on the third pair where he needs to be, a little bit more sheltered
mhm.
minutes, um, everything's a little bit better. But overall, closing thoughts before we jump into studs and
Yeah,
duds.
and you're not
Um,
yeah, and your choices aren't I was gonna
yeah,
say, and your choices aren't between Wotherspoon and Arstoli.
yeah, yep, exactly. Osterley, although I will give him a shout out, he
Mhm.
played a really good game in the Montreal game. I thought Osterley was noticeable, making good
He was
possession
solid.
plays.
He was Yeah, he made the outlet that led directly to McAvoy's wraparound goal. He
Hmm.
knew where that needed to be. He saw the opening, so good for him.
Yeah. Yep. But no, TD Garden was a fun place to be on Sunday afternoon. Fans all walking out singing "Ole Ole Ole." I will say that the crowd was a little
Love
extra
that.
lubricated because of the hour-long pregame ceremony with the drinks were flowing. So yeah, the crowd had a good
Yeah,
time,
we had
and
a couple
I
people at
did
the
as well.
game.
Yeah, yeah, I had a few pops myself,
Yeah, we had a
and
couple people at the game, one. Yep.
yeah.
A lot of people were just absolutely hammered. We had one in particular in the Discord being like, I feel very Joe Sicko right now." And I was like, "You need to get some Pedialyte in you right now, young man."
Yeah, yeah, you don't want to
So
Joe Puco in the morning. So uh
nice.
yeah, yeah. All right. We're gonna take a moment. We're gonna recognize our sponsors for today's episode, and then we'll be right back for studs and duds. This season, the Two Pad Stack podcast is proudly supported by two fantastic local businesses. First, we're going to give a shout out to Earth Eagle Brewings, where great beer meets great company. With locations in both Portsmouth and Somersworth, New Hampshire, Earth Eagle is something for everybody. Whether you're relaxing in their Portsmouth beer garden or enjoying live music and trivia at the Somersworth pub, you'll be in good hands with their craft beers, epic hot dogs, and much more. And don't forget, if you're into brewing your own beer, their homebrew shop has you covered in Somersworth. And when it comes to tattooing, there's no better place than Vital Ink Tattoo in Barrington, New Hampshire. The artists at Vital Ink are all about turning your ideas into tattoos you'll love forever. The team works hard to make sure every visit is comfortable, and their dedication to making your tattoo experience fun and relaxing is unmatched. Whether you're getting your first piece or adding to your collection, Vital Ink is the place to go. Special thanks to both of these sponsors for supporting the Two Pad Stack podcast this season. Be sure to check them out and show them some love. All right, and we are back. All right, so we've already dove in. We talked about the week that was. It's time to look forward. And before we do that, let's go ahead and analyze from last week who are the studs and duds. So obviously, Jake is not in today. He's got some time off, so I don't have his studs and duds. So, Jake, hope you're doing well, buddy. Enjoy the time off. Thinking of you. Um, my stud, we're going to go with the mayor of Weymouth, Charlie Coyle. So he had 3 goals in
Mhm.
these games here. I think that you mentioned it briefly earlier, Andrew, that he's being utilized in a better way by Sacco. And I think that the grinding style of play that they're employing offensively, it really fits to his puck possession skill set. And he's able to utilize that more down low and generate these scoring chances in tight. I mean, you look at his first goal against Montreal. That's just a puck battle out in front, and he got a quick backhand over the
Mhm.
shoulder of the goaltender there, Caden Primo, and it was just a lethal shot from in close. And he's a big guy; it's hard to win that battle against him. So then he had that breakaway goal in the
Right. I
third
mean,
period to
he's
crack it
yeah.
open. Yeah,
Mhm.
go
It
ahead.
was just it was he's looked a lot better. He's looked a lot better, and I think that, again, he's getting the easier matchups. Charlie Coyle is a top 6 center in the NHL. I'm not saying that he's not by saying this, but he's a good 2C. He is an
Mhm.
elite 3C.
Agree.
And if you're able to put him down there, he can do some serious damage. Now the people above him have to start pulling their weight. I'm looking at you directly, holes staring in you, Elias Lindholm.
Mm.
Um, I'll probably get to that in a minute. But Cole's been
Fair
great.
enough.
I firmly agree with your him being your stud.
Yeah, yeah, he's had a good few games, and who knows, maybe working with a fellow masshole as your head coach will get Charlie going here, because Zacho is quite the masshole himself. So, my dud of the week, and this isn't necessarily a barometer upon his poor play or anything like that. But I expect to see so much more out of Mason Lohrei, and I acknowledge that he's a young kid and he's got a lot of development to do and a lot of learning to do. But some of the gaffes he's making with puck possession in very important moments, um, it is difficult, and I can tolerate it because he is so young, and hopefully he will learn from these. but I need that learning process to start soon. So Mason Lohrei is my dud for this week.
I will say this about Mason Lohrei. Before the I'll say actually, you know what? I'll say before the Islanders game, I thought he had put together a about 3 or 4 games, uh, coinciding with the coaching change, need I remind, where he looked a lot more assertive, where he looked a lot more confident offensively, making and maintaining dangles at the blue line, and also, like, stepping up defensively, getting into puck battles without getting himself out of position, using his physicality. People forget about this about Mason Lohrei. He is 6'5", 215 pounds. He's a big boy. He can lay the body when the situation calls for it. And but I think starting with the Islanders game and definitely during the Pittsburgh game, kind of recovered a little bit during the Montreal game, but
Hmm.
he did not look good. He did not look good. Pittsburgh was victimizing him all night. Him and Wotherspoon both.
Yeah,
But
Spoons
so
did not
I
have a good game from what I heard.
yeah, no, Wotherspoon. There was a reason Osterley was playing and not Wotherspoon on Sunday night. I'll say that. But I agree. I think that he had some momentum that was dashed the last couple of games, and he looked a little bit better against Montreal. So let's hope he gets back on track. I'm a big fan of Lohrei. I think he's going to be a second pair stalwart, 40-point guy at his peak. And 6'5" and able to move and skate and just handle like he does. It's a tantalizing package that you don't
Hmm.
really get anywhere, let alone in the second round.
Yeah.
So
Kind of reminds me, he's got some of the similar
I
tools that I
agree.
saw in like
But
Dougie Hamilton.
yeah. Oh, that's good. Yeah. I don't think he'll be as stat filling as Dougie
Yeah.
Hamilton is or was at his peak at New Jersey. I think he's hurt again, or I think he got hurt again earlier this year. Um, but poor man's Dougie Hamilton. I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the second
Yeah.
round.
Sure.
So before we go and look at the week that will be, let's just do a quick trip around the NHL on news that's kind of come out. First and foremost, let's dive in and talk about, overall the trade market around the league has been pretty quiet for this year.
Mhm.
There hasn't been a whole lot of stuff going around. But there's been rumors over in Columbus for quite a while now that defenseman David Jiricek, who was the 6th overall draft pick in 2022, had a very, very high ceiling as a two-way defender there. Um, he just hasn't been able to really crack the lineup, and he kept getting healthy
Mhm.
scratched. And it just became abundantly clear that it was time for both the team and time for both the player to look for the next chapter and what was going to happen there. So when a player is drafted that high that recently, I mean,
Mhm.
this is only 2 years ago, right? It's not that long ago. Uh,
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
gonna be a coveted asset, right? So Minnesota
Mhm.
comes in and they offer a king's ransom for David Jiricek. So the full package in this
It's a
trade that
lot of draft
happened
picks.
on Saturday,
Mhm.
Columbus received a first round pick in the 2025 NHL draft, a third and fourth round pick in the 2026 NHL draft, and a second round pick in the 2027 NHL draft. Minnesota received a fifth round pick in 2025. Additionally, the Columbus Blue Jackets received Damon Hunt in the deal. So it's one player and four
Mhm.
draft picks for one player and one draft pick.
Decent defensive prospects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
Hunt's a
and
decent
Damon,
prospect, probably tops out as a third pairing guy.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, but he found himself behind the 8 ball, right? Like, he there was a lot of depth in front of him in Minnesota, and arguably the Wild are one of the top teams in the league right now, so they don't have time to
Mhm.
really, Sherpa him into a third pair role if he's not earning the minutes, so
Right. But they have time to Sherpa a guy like David Juracek into there, which I think is a better upside move than trying to do it with Damon Hunt. I think this is a good trade for both teams. I believe that, geez, Columbus got a treasure trove of magic beans, and that's what draft picks are ultimately. Like
mhm.
for every David Juracek, there is a for every David Juracek, there is a Devils era Pavel Zacha in a
Mm,
for a top 6 pick. Um, so I mean, I think Juracek is what is he, 20? He's 20 now, I believe.
yep.
I think he could play in the NHL right now. He had 43 games last year. I don't have it in front of me, so please correct me if I'm wrong. He had 43 games last year for the Pascal Vincent woe-begotten, lost in the wilderness. Why do you want to look at my phone? Columbus Blue Jackets. Um, and like couldn't really get a foothold there. I mean, how much do you expect a guy like him to get a foothold in a situation like that? And he goes to Minnesota, and Minnesota, it looks as if Minnesota has every intention of playing him. And Minnesota has every intention of playing him now. And I bet that was a big part of the deal and the big part of why Columbus dealt with Minnesota to
Yeah.
get him the minutes that he felt that he needed and wanted and for his development. And Columbus wasn't going to give it to him. Um, their reasons are their own. I don't know why. I think Juracek could have really helped that top 6, especially when they start trading Provorov and Severson and all of them. But that's a story
Yeah.
for another time.
I mean, you're the Columbus Blue Jackets. You're literally living in the basement and you're not giving this kid an opportunity to work out the kinks in his game. Like, what do you
Yeah.
have to lose? What are you gaining by scratching this guy? You've already sent him down to the Cleveland Monsters and he dominated at the AHL level. He was
Hmm.
stellar at the AHL level. And
Hmm.
you just aren't allowing him to flourish at your NHL level. Like, I don't understand it. Like, you're just shooting yourselves in the foot at this point. Like, it's mind-boggling for me.
Juracek had made comments, I believe it was last year. I believe it was last year, where he talked about how he didn't see himself very long for the AHL or thought he was an NHL defenseman now. He made these comments, and I guess you really play roulette when you're a young kid and you make those kind of comments. You either have a team that's going to be like, hell yeah, I love the moxie, or you're going to be like, know your place. And it looks like the Columbus Blue Jackets were the latter.
Which is interesting though, because you have Don Waddell coming from the Carolina Hurricanes, which that seems like it is an organization that is all about, hey, you know, use some personality, come out there and be the Prius and take out that Lamborghini and that kind of shit with you know, going on over there in Carolina. And I figure that would kind of pull over. I would expect that sort of mentality from Columbus with maybe Jarmo Kekalainen, who was there forever, and he was the old head that was kind of the built-in culture for the Columbus Blue Jackets. But he's gone now. It's a new
Yeah.
era in Columbus. I mean, granted, they seem cursed when it comes to coaches, but it's like I just don't understand it. I feel like they fumbled the bag so hard with him and then we're able to parlay it into a hell of a return. So, you know,
Yeah.
kudos to Don Waddell for getting that bag for that player because it's easy enough for a disgruntled young player to force their way out and you don't get anything in return. Look at what Rucker McGroarty was able to do, and you know he forced his way out, wanted guaranteed NHL time, and now he's playing in Wilkes-Barre Scranton.
With 2 points in 15 games, I believe is his line.
Yeah, not great, not
A
great.
goal and an assist. Yeah, not great. And Pittsburgh arguably got the better prospect in that deal in Jaeger. Jaeger is a stud. He's gonna be good. Oh,
I
Winnipeg,
think
yeah.
he was
Yeah, I
just
did say Winnipeg, yeah.
traded. Yeah, I think he was just traded in the CHL as well in a big deal. I think
Mhm,
the Lethbridge Hurricanes just acquired him, and multiple first round picks were involved, which that's pretty intriguing. Speaking of
mhm.
personally with CHL, I mentioned a little bit a while ago that I was at a tournament for my daughter. That was in Hooksett, New Hampshire at Tri-Town Ice Arena, where the
Hell yeah.
New Hampshire Mountain Kings are the resident North American Hockey League team. There's a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors going around that the QMJHL may be coming down to New Hampshire, and the Mountain Kings would probably have to take their show on the road and play in Manchester at the SNHU Arena, former home of the Monarchs. But it would be sweet to get QMJHL hockey in New Hampshire.
It would be fantastic. They are also the Q are also looking at Lewiston, Maine, for
Mm,
that, but I hope they don't get it. I hope they tried it once with the Lewiston Maniacs. It
yeah.
wasn't really financially solvent.
Mm,
So, there is a market in Manchester for for good hockey, and you
yeah.
know the the NHL are is a quite a show, from what I'm led to understand. So,
Yeah. Some of those kids on that team from the NAHL roster for the Mountain Kings were practicing while my daughter was getting ready for her game, and it's just junior hockey at a low level. Like that's all it is. It's I think that if they're able to
mhm,
get QMJHL hockey and maybe
yeah,
even like a
yeah,
Memorial
yeah.
Cup in Manchester at some point in the future, like that would be pristine. That would be amazing. And I
Mhm.
know the CHL across the board, especially with the new agreement that they've made with the NCAA, they're looking to expand into the United States pretty significantly, which is fascinating.
Right, right. What I think it's a direct response to that. I think it's a direct response to all of that because they're losing a lot of players hand over fist right now. So I think they're trying to see what the best course of action is, and they can do it. But there's one thing you have to be able to do. You have to do. You have to call them the Monarchs. You either call them the Monarchs or you don't do it at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, this was also discussed while I was at this rink. Is that the Tri-Town Ice Arena used to have the Junior Monarchs there. That was their team there, their feeder program, their elite hockey program was the
Mhm,
Junior Monarchs. But due to LA pulling the plug on the Monarchs and
mhm,
moving them
mhm.
over to, you know, Ontario, California, um, apparently there were some copyright issues and they threatened them with like w- yeah, litigation and all that kind of stuff. So they had to completely rebrand. So from what I've heard, the city of Manchester still retains the naming rights to Monarchs. LA has rescinded those, but it would be maintained as probably the Mountain Kings name, which is
Mhm.
pretty fucking crispy though. Like their branding is sweet. So if you haven't checked them out yet, they're
That's a good name.
NH
That is a good name.
yeah, and they've got like mooses. They kind of look like the Manitoba Moose logos from the AHL. That baby blue, powder blue, and white. Think Utah colors.
Mhm,
They're pretty cool looking kits, so it wouldn't be a
mhm.
bad thing. Anyways, that's enough talk about Manchester. Other news around the league. I know you wanted to talk about this. You guys, if you haven't had a chance yet, you gotta check out the Charlie Lindgren play for the Capitals. Oh my god. So if you don't know, Charlie Lindgren's the goalie for the Washington Capitals. And puck comes in and he comes out of his crease trying to make a play. Forechecker is coming in, closing in on him, and he goes to try to clear the puck behind his net to pass it to the D man, bank it off the backboards. Grossly miscalculates, and he buries the puck into his own net like 5 feet from it. Hilarious.
You know what made this worse? I mean, you can't get much worse than this play, but do you know what made this worse? It was a 3-3 game in the third period with 11 minutes left.
Yep. For the lead.
Like, the timing of that is awful.
Hilarious though. Oh my god. As a goalie though, as a goalie, can I just
Mhm.
say
Oh,
that is like one of my worst worst nightmares, like, doing that shit. I am terrified every time I
Mhm.
go out to play the puck that I would do something stupid like that. So, it's almost as bad as when you have that skipping puck from the opposition blue line, and it just skips over your
The
pad.
Vesatoskala.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, Steve Shields,
Yep,
happened to him. I was at a game as a kid, and I remember that happening at TD Garden.
yep.
Um, so yeah, that was
It just
hilarious. If
skips
you
over
haven't
your
seen
pad,
it.
and you have the positioning. It's yeah,
Mhm.
it just somehow just somehow finds the 6 hole
Yeah.
in
It's
because God doesn't want you to be happy, apparently.
right. Right. Because they want everyone to laugh at you, and you deserve it. All right, so
Yeah.
before we wrap up here, we're almost at time. Um some news for today's episode. Today is Monday that we're recording, but you're going to be listening on Tuesday, the 3rd of December. So hope before we wrap, hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Something to keep in mind, tonight's game against the Red
Mhm.
Wings will be an ESPN Plus exclusive. So you're not going to be able to watch
Hell
unless you have
yeah.
ESPN Plus, or maybe you sail the high seas and you're swashbuckling your way to a stream. That may be the way to go too. But just keep that in mind, guys, that this game is going to be ESPN Plus. So um, until then, I would like to thank you, Andrew, for joining. Guys, if you haven't paid attention to the Short Shift podcast, give these guys a shout. I love all of them. Andrew, why don't you plug the socials real quick where they can find you guys?
Well, there's Ian at Low Quality Bruins Fan, Bruins Low on Twitter. There's at Short Shift Pod, where Thomas runs the Twitter for Short Shift, and then there's me, who doesn't have any social media. So get me by carrier pigeon or by email if you happen to have
All
it.
right, perfect. Yeah, he does take smoke signals as
Or I'm
well.
on the Discord.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. You got to light the brazier in order to get Andrew's attention, but we'll get there. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, buddy. It's always great getting your takes, and always love bantering with you in the Short Shift Discord. If you didn't know, we do have also a 2-pad stack Bruins Discord that you can chat in during Bruins games. So appreciate it when you chime in there as well. And yeah, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up now. Thanks again for tuning in. Happy holidays, everybody. It's time to bust out those Christmas trees if you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah if you go down that side of things. I know Jake is a proud Jew. So if you're one of those people, I hope you enjoy your holidays as well. And we really appreciate your listenership. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.
Have a great night, Ace. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course.